Good afternoon, traders. Russell Sandiford here for your Friday market update for Easy Markets. We had some very readable price action overnight, in my opinion. I think we saw quite generally the gold move lower, really signal the dollar bullish tone that was playing out in all of the major pairs. So, starting with dollar yen, let's have a look at dollar yen. It has come alive, and I'm very pleased to see that. I was saying that it should lift to 113.30. I said that specifically yesterday. That's fine as a base, but I think it can make its way to something in the region of 113.80 this evening on the back of that non-farm payroll. The headline number out of the US, of course, on the open for the US session. The sterling is a big area of interest and attention for me as well. Now, it's coming alive. If we just jump across to the sterling against the greenback there on the 4-hour chart, it's exactly like I said, come alive from that 33.20 level back towards 135. All of a sudden, that target of 136 is in sight. Even though the negotiation completion is certainly not in sight, there's still a lot of toing and froing, and that's to be expected. But markets are starting to look to reprice the sterling across the board. Now, I did start banging the sterling Aussie drum early last week, if you recall, when we were around 175 and change after that ridiculous pullback. I made some very outlandish calls that 183 on the weekly and monthly charts is a level that the sterling against our Aussie can return to, in my opinion. Now, we've had a very, very big move in the right direction already. It's back to 179.30. You don't need me to tell you that. The chart will tell you that, but what the chart is also pointing towards is a breakthrough of that little peak from earlier on in November. Now, that for mine means once we reach that 180 benchmark platform, potentially then this run up to 182.50 or 183 looks definitely in play for a big trade there on the sterling against some of the crosses. So let's get into the guts of what's going on in the markets. The bottom line at the moment is, like I said on Monday in the weekly video, this week should be a story of dollar yen up and euro dollar drifting back. The dollar strength is the obvious sentiment that we're seeing across the board. Now, it's nowhere more obvious than in gold. Just jumping into gold here. It's just dribbling around that 1250 level. Now, on the written analysis for the website yesterday, I suggested it would get to 1250 and find support. So I have to note that it did get as low as around 1243. That is quite an ominous sign for the US dollar bears. You are probably in trouble. So when gold does that sort of price action, normally a dollar breakout higher is imminent in my experience. Now, looking at the Aussie, not looking too good. It is now collapsed to 75. It's got a little bit of support of 10 or so, but copper hasn't bounced at all. Copper and gold have been holding hands, sliding lower all week, and copper can't recover that 3 level to save its life at the moment. So the Aussie dollar is definitely looking at that 74.50 area I've been going on about for months to anyone who'd listen. The 74.50 on the Aussie definitely looks in play this evening if the non-farm payroll data is supportive. So a fast preview for tonight's non-farm payrolls. Of course, the key thing is the wage growth, which is tipped to be solid, and the unemployment is supposed to stay on par there at 4.1 for the US. There's a lot of reports that suggest it may blip lower to 4%, which is a very good sign, and obviously it will be optimistic for the US dollar bulls. That's how I see things playing out. I don't think it's going to go bananas tonight because we all know that rate rise is coming next week for the US, but we also all know that it's pretty much priced in and well telegraphed to the market. So where is the action? Where can you play out tonight? For mine, it still looks good in dollar yen, but also dollar CAD. Dollar CAD is another one I mentioned on Monday there around the 26.60 level, suggesting it can make a run for 29 or 30. It is very much on track. It's at 28.50, and this is the pair that's had the biggest impact move this week. Apart from the RBA holding rates, the Bank of Canada did the same. But what they did differently, the Bank of Canada were quite cautious. That was the key word. that they actually used in their rhetoric and their statement, and that's really thrown a bit of water on the fire behind the CAD. But at the same time, the gold sell-off and the oil sell-off doesn't help the CAD as well. So long story short, I think this is the best way to play out tonight's non-farms. Apart from long dollar yen, look to consider something there, long dollar CAD. Now the Bitcoin story is a one-way street, a runaway train. It touched 17,000 while I was having my toast this morning. It's had a little dribble back later on here today in the Asian session, but not really significant pullbacks. Something in the region of $800 is not significant these days because it's recovered that level straight away back to 16,300 that you can see on the chart. Now, don't forget something very unique with our Bitcoin is you guys have the ability on our web platform with easyMarkets, if you move your stop loss to break even because you're long and making money on your Bitcoin, the bottom line is the margin requirement converts from whatever it was at the start of the trade to nothing. So that benefit that you get, which no other broker offers, is that ability to have a reasonably low base and to build up a good position. If you don't understand that and you want a better explanation, that's always available. Just get through to us here on the easyMarkets dealing desk. But for mine, I think it has shrugged off 15,000 so quickly that the $20,000 marker or milestone is certainly set to come up next. The action is one way on this guy, so yep, keep nimble though. There is the potential for sharp pullbacks potentially on the weekend or even next week. Otherwise, have a great trading evening with the non-farm payrolls.